Welcome back to The Woman Factor. Joining me now is Heather Benoit. She's here to share her inspiring story about her daughter, Millie. Thank you for joining me tonight on the show, Heather. Glad to have you.
To be here.
Yes.
Millie is our unborn daughter. We found out we were pregnant with her in late May. Mm-hmm. Actually, we were able to get pregnant really quickly, which is a blessing because, a lot of times people do struggle with getting pregnant. We were very excited. We have a son that is 2, and at the time he was a little over 1. Mm-hmm. So we always dreamed of having a big family and having them pretty close in age so that they can grow up together. When we were about 10 weeks pregnant, we went for our first ultrasound. And when we went for our ultrasound, they were able to see, the development, how everything was going. And when we met with our doctor after, they noticed that they did see some fluid building up behind Millie's neck. Mm-hmm. So they wanted to do further testing, so we decided to go along ahead with the protocol. And we did the NIPT blood test, and that takes about 2 weeks for results to come in. So when we were first told, that they had fluid, we were a little nervous, but we were hopeful, being that, when we left, my husband said, this is what God wants for us in our life. This is a chord he's going to give us. Mm-hmm. We're just going to play it and take it day by day and be the best we can. So about 2 weeks later, when I was about 13 weeks, I got the call, and that everything looked good, but that there was missing a chromosome. Mm-hmm. And I've heard about, extra chromosome with Down syndrome, but never with like a missing. Right. So when we started talking more about it, for our first son, we didn't want to find out because we love surprises. So when she said, you'll have to find out because it's something with the gender chromosome. And I was like, okay. So when she told us that Millie was missing either the X, or she was partially missing the X in certain cells of her body. Hence, that's why that fluid was starting to build up. So we found out it was a girl, which we were ecstatic, and that it was Turner syndrome. So Turner syndrome only occurs in girls, and it only could happen if that X doesn't complete, and it's only random during conception. So we immediately started researching. I had to know everything about Turner syndrome. I wanted to know the ifs, the buts. I wanted to know the whole spiel because I wanted to be the most prepared I could for my daughter. So I immediately started researching and trying to find out what I could do to prepare myself to help her when she would be born and when, things that might happen in her life. So we kind of just took it week by week. And when we were about 15, 16 weeks, we decided, we kept it a secret for about 2 weeks. And because if we would say, hey, this is what the baby has, you go research it, it says it only occurs in girls. And we didn't want our family to find out through Google.
Right. Wow.
So I was like, let's plan a reveal, keep it in a positive light. So we set out to do the reveal. I was about 16 and a half weeks. And we really love going to the camp and fishing. So we did a fishing theme, and our son pulled a fish out of the ice chest, and it was a pink fish. Wow. And for the reveal, what I decided to do is I made a little pamphlet, and for the pamphlet, it had everything about Turner syndrome, everything that could happen, might happen, different symptoms, so that our family could also get prepared and also be educated, because we wanted them to be in this journey with us. We wanted them to be able to feel like they could ask us questions, and if they had anything that they wanted to learn more about, we wanted to be there and be that voice for them, and as well as for Millie.
Right.
So everything we decided to do was to keep in a positive light and to continue our journey with hope. And we chose faith over our fear each day.
Right. And it sounds like faith, inspires you a lot, and that's what's gotten you through this,
Yes.
But what was it like when you first found out about this? And I know you said you kind of kept it from your family, keep it positive,
That was, those weeks, keeping it to ourselves were the absolute hardest and the most rough time, because holding those feelings in were indescribable, because you wanted to be able to express and talk about it. So that's why after we did our reveal, I started my blogging journey, because I needed to Because I know there's so many people in the world that go through things like this, but they keep it to themselves. And they don't have an outlet to talk to and have anybody there that has been through it, and they feel like they're alone, but when all reality they're not. There's so many people in this community that experience child loss and stillbirth and miscarriages, and it's just a community that unfortunately exists, but when we come together, it makes the journey just a little bit more easier to have somebody to relate to. So when I started my blogging, I received emails. Like, I started getting emails from women from different places of the world telling me how brave I was for opening up, and I kind of, told them, they wanted to talk, like to reach out to me through email. So I've met a few women just through my blog. And then also I joined a Turner Syndrome support group. And in that group I shared my blog. And a lot of those moms, it's rare because Turner Syndrome is 1 in 2,000 it affects. But during the time I was pregnant in the support group, there was 10 of us, and all 10 of us lost our daughters.
Really?
Yeah, because the percentage that they give the daughters, the unborn children, is 1% to survive because of that fluid, and it just depends on how hard they fight. Some of them exceed and, are able to live and thrive. It just depends on how hard they can fight and if that fluid becomes too much.
Wow. Well, of course, I'm very sorry for your loss.
Oh, thank you.
But I know we were showing the scrapbook that you made, on the camera. Yeah. That right there is so, such a positive thing that you could, always go back and look on. Tell us, kind of what happened after the gender reveal party. And
after the gender reveal, we started seeing specialists. We would go once a month to our local hospital in Thibodeau, and they have doctors that come from Women's in Baton Rouge, and sometimes you'll have the same, and then sometimes they'll be different depending on who's on call that day. And what they would do was look more at Millie and kind of measure her fluid, kind of see how she's doing, how she's progressing. The first time was absolutely the worst because the doctor at that time pretty much said, it's in God's hands. Like, this is, I don't have anything I could really advice for y'all to give y'all. And I think that was the hardest part of our journey because we were so hopeful and we were thinking that, we could go in, the flu is going to be gone. We've been praying. And the next few ones, she got a little better. Like, it wasn't as much, like it wasn't in her organs, it was just on the outside. So we even got, our faith was deepened. We got more excited because we're like, okay, we get into that 24-week mark. Because that first doctor told us if we got to that 24-week mark, more than likely she was going to succeed because a lot of Turner syndrome babies do not make it past like 16, 17 weeks. So she made it very, very far for her condition. Well, at my 20-week appointment, we saw Dr. Sanama. He was a godsend because he walked in and I just started crying. I just felt like we were so connected to him. He said, I'm a man of science because I'm a doctor, but I'm also a man of God. And I believe that if you have the faith, keep on praying, it can happen. And he was very experienced. He's seen a lot of different cases of Turner syndrome. So I feel like he was placed in our lives at the right time because he was the one that had to deliver the news to us. And we had him at our 22-week appointment, and then we went back at 26. And when we went back, he was the one that had to tell us there was no heartbeat. So he was there to kind of help us with the understanding, and then he was the one that delivered the news to us. But he was just, it's indescribable how blessed we felt to have him. Like, we called him our doctor. Even though we only saw him those 2 times, we just felt like we could relate to him the most, and we really understood him as a doctor and as a person.
Right.
And that's what really helps whenever you're in different,
Of course.
any kind of, when you can relate to your doctor. So that's what really helped with us, because the 24-week mark, I remember I bought the first outfit because I was, we were very hopeful, but I always had that thought in the back of my mind, what if we go in and this is it? But once we got to that mark, I was like, I'm gonna buy some clothes now. Like,
Yes.
I finally like had that belief in me that she was gonna come home. So we bought a little outfit, and then that's when, you know, later on, she ended up it was just too much of a fight. So it was extremely, extremely hard. But knowing that when she opened her eyes, she saw God, and knowing that she's pain-free helps us.
And it also helps too, you know, we talked about earlier that you have such a big faith, and you know that's what's you know ultimately gotten you through this. And I know talking with you earlier, your due date was supposed to be this Sunday, but you know, like you said, just keep the faith,
Yes.
right? Well, thank you so much, Heather, for sharing your story with us. We appreciate it, and you know, just keep doing what you're doing, inspiring other mothers. Yes,
Appreciate it.
Yes. And thank you to our viewers for watching. We'll be right back with much more here on The Woman Factor. Don't go away.